the beautiful people, talking to the people who are making change, the change agents, the people who are activists and doing the thing. I mean, you're talking about real activists that ain't scared to make some moves. So who do we have today, Sizzle? Who do we have today?
We have the beautiful Miss Kadida Kenner. She's a Westchester, PA native and TU grad. TU in the building. TU. Yes. She was most recently a writer, producer, and director for college sports television programming in Charlotte, North Carolina. Energized by the 2016 elections, she decided to take a hiatus from TV production and return to campaign work as a field and digital organizer for the NC Democratic Party's coordinated campaign. Following the elections, Ms. Kadida moved back to PA and currently lives in Harrisburg while working as the campaign director for Why Courts Matter, Pennsylvania, a nonpartisan coalition of organizations and advocates working to ensure our federal courts are filled with diverse, independent, well-qualified mainstream jurists who are dedicated to fairness and impartiality and keeping with the core constitutional values of liberty, equality, and justice for all. Welcome to the show, Miss Kadida Kenner.
I love the way that sounds. I love the way that sounds. First of all, thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First, Kadida and I go way back in the college, right? That was the homie back then, and we still connected. I've been seeing a lot of stuff that she's been doing. I said, yo, homie, come to my show. You got to come to my show because what you're doing, I love it, and it stands for what we do here. Yeah. Right. And so I'm gonna jump right into it. Why? I mean, I'm gonna jump right into it. Right. First of all, and then we talk about the organization that you're affiliated with. I'm gonna talk about why I seen you handcuffed and going and put in a paddy wagon. That's what I want to know.
Well, that was an amazing experience, actually. That was last Wednesday.
Right.
I was down in D.C.
Right.
And I went down there with 14 other Pennsylvanians.
Right.
And we were down there to advocate for the federal courts, the lower courts.
Right.
And we went down there because there's a really bad nominee in Pennsylvania. His name is David Porter. We've been fighting him since 2014.
Oh, my goodness.
Senator Pat Toomey has wanted him to be a federal court judge for a very long time. And now he has his opportunity now that it's the Trump administration.
Right.
Horrible.
Yeah, so we went down there as 14 activists, 9 of us committed to getting arrested that day. And I'm still under the impression that we are the first group ever to get arrested over lower court nominees.
Wow. How about that? Right?
Yeah.
So clearly you could tell it was targeted. You know that that oftentimes when we have a voice and we like to, do or speak for the people who don't have a voice, right? That oftentimes we're targeted and, try to get you out of the way. We try to get you out of the way, or the people try to try to get you out of the way, right? Why is it so important? And we can go into the organization that you're with. Why is it so important that you, are so outspoken when it comes to that voice?
Yeah. As a woman of color, as a black woman,
absolutely,
I know that my rights have been granted by the courts, and I know my rights have been taken away by the courts. And so I know how important they are, and I know how important several activists over the years have advocated for the federal courts. And we named this action that we did last Wednesday after the Representative John Lewis, the American hero, Representative John Lewis, and good trouble. And so it's time for us to get into some good trouble in this country right now. We're suffering under an administration that's out of control and who wants to take us back to decades we were even born during that time. And so in order to fight and combat what's going on in this administration, I had to take it back to the 50s and the 60s. And so I organized this group to go down to D.C. We represented the entire state of Pennsylvania, from Erie to Pittsburgh to Philly, Philadelphia suburbs, Harrisburg. We were young, we were older, we were gay, we were straight, we were Muslim, we were Jewish. We represented Pennsylvania.
That's right.
And we went down there, we caused some good trouble. We got in the way. It's time to get in the way of this administration.
Awesome.
Hello. And that's why we created this platform, to be able to give people a platform to speak who oftentimes don't get heard, right? And I believe that, positions that you may sit on right now, people probably would be scared to kind of give that opportunity, but we ain't.
Yeah.
Good try.
All right. And so let's talk about your organization and how was it founded and the reasons and where it is today.
Yeah. So Why Courts Matter Pennsylvania has been around in some form or fashion for more than a half a dozen years.
Okay.
It's been called Why Courts Matter and kind of in the function that it's been in the last 3 or 4 years. And we advocate for the federal courts as the more progressive wing. You know, we are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, but because we believe in fairness and diversity
There we go.
and mainstream nominees, they say we lean left. So if that means me lean left, I guess we lean left. And so what we try to do is just educate the public on the federal courts because not a lot of people know about it. It's not a sexy subject until there's a Supreme Court nominee vacancy or until it's our day in court and then we care about it.
Right.
So I just travel the state of Pennsylvania, and it's a large state, Pennsylvania, and just talk to people about the federal courts and take them back to Civics 101.
Wow.
Educate them.
Yeah, because there's so many people who are activated now due to this administration who have never been activated before and care more than they ever did before.
Absolutely.
And they just want the information, and so that's what I do. So the fact that we went down to D.C. and got arrested was something different for Why Courts Matter Pennsylvania. That's typically not what we do.
We don't go just to get arrested, I mean, and have to go back through the court system, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I'd like to know who are some of the members, though, because I would believe or I would think that you have some attorneys that's there to support you guys. And, just like you said gay, straight, Muslim, Christian, all over, right? Who are some of these people that support you guys?
So we're a coalition of tens of thousands. Actually, now it's hundreds of thousands of Pennsylvanians. And so we're talking about Planned Parenthood, the NAACP, the National Council of Jewish Women, Sierra Club, Equality PA. Just any organization you can think of that cares about the issues that we care about, they're with our organization because they know how important the courts are. And we have grassroots folks who have followed along, like the indivisible groups that have popped up. And then we also have our grass tops, and we have attorneys, that we can talk to and speak to about these issues. But mostly this is a grassroots organization. I, by training, am not an attorney. I'm a journalist. I got my degree in journalism. But I know enough about the courts just because I follow them. It's out there. The mainstream media doesn't carry it all that much, but you can find it if you're interested. And I just care about them. I just know that that's where my freedom lies and my liberties lies in the courts.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
You, because you're no stranger. You are no stranger to what we're doing here on this platform at all.
Yeah.
And so you understand the media literacy piece of it. And so I want to jump right into the importance of voting.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, unfortunately, the reason why, unfortunately for some, right? Because all of them I'm glad we got the current administration, right? So unfortunately for some, they believed that, I'm not going to vote, right? Because my vote doesn't matter. They think of the presidency, but oftentimes they don't think of kind of like the secondary, voting piece of what we're supposed to do. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of voting and the current administration nominee for Supreme Court. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Elections have consequences.
Yes.
And so does not voting in elections. And what a lot of people didn't realize is that Supreme Court nominees are voted on by all 100 senators. So it's not just the presidential election you need to worry about. It's also your senators, our U.S. senators, because they are making major decisions. And so when you're going to the polls to vote for the president, also make sure you're voting for the senators.
Right.
If it's not a presidential election, you should be voting in every election that happens.
Right.
And just in transparency, you read off of my resume there that I did work on Hillary's campaign in North Carolina.
Right.
What depressed me the most working in that campaign was trying to recruit young black men to vote.
Sure.
Because they just don't feel as though their vote matters.
Right.
And it does. And, we mainly focus on the federal courts, but you can take this back to Meek Mill.
Yeah. How about that? There you go.
And and that's the state courts,
Mm-hmm.
the elected judgeships here, and those are elected judgeships.
Right.
So you can actually vote for the person who could potentially be hearing a case that you're related to.
Exactly.
Courts matter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times people say, "Oh, I don't want to register to vote because I don't want to get picked for jury duty."
Right.
That's your duty,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you have to almost hit the lotteries. It's in the same vein as getting jury duty.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you think it's lack of education? Just what you said, like they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
they don't know. I don't think people understand how important that vote is, and if the vote wasn't this important, so many people wouldn't try so hard to stop you from doing it.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, how do we reach a generation who could care less about
Yeah.
voting and things like that, but they're the ones that are constantly caught up in the system?
Remind them of the cases that come up. Remind them of the repercussions of not voting. Educate them on how the vote matters.
Mm-hmm.
Education is power.
Yeah.
And they just need to know, because we think that the educational system in our country is doing a good job when it comes to teaching about civics. I don't think that it's teaching civics
No.
anymore. Yeah.
It's selective teaching,
Yeah.
and for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we go from here? You know, with Supreme Court now.
Yeah.
You know, where do we go from here?
I want to fill you in on something that's a little disturbing
Oh,
right now.
goodness
Yeah.
gracious.
And
More
this-
bad
and this is-
news.
And this is what I do during my presentations. I
Right.
say I like to scare the heck out of people,
Good.
and then I
That's
spur
right.
them to
Yeah.
action, because
Right.
we need to be a little fearful right now.
Exactly.
We have judicial nominees right now who want to sit on federal benches for a lifetime, who will not say out loud that Brown versus Board of Education was rightly decided. When asked the question, was Brown versus Board of Education rightly decided, they plead the fifth, basically,
And say nothing.
and say nothing. They say they can't answer that question. We all know what Brown versus Board of Education did.
Right. Yeah.
Ended segregation
Yep.
in schools,
Yep.
public
Right.
accommodations. We have judges or potential judges who will not say it was rightly decided out loud, including one here in Pennsylvania, David Porter, the one we've been advocating against.
Right.
And so we have the Supreme Court fight right now with Brett Kavanaugh, 53 years old. He'll sit on a bench for 30 years, impacting your children, your grandchildren. He will find out about him. Will he say Brown versus Board of Education was rightly decided? We'll find out.
Wow.
In those years, that just like scared me.
Yeah,
And it frustrates
scary.
me. I'm gonna tell you why it frustrates me. I'm trying, because I don't have a lot of time, but I'm gonna get on my soapbox just for a second. It frustrates me because the majority of those who do not vote looks like me. Right? Now, the flip side of that is we're the ones who are getting locked up,
Yep.
right? And having a hard time fighting in the system. And unjustly not even having a resource to get out of the system once we're in the system. I come across people who still trying to get their records expunged because they were in the system for something stupid,
Right.
like even weed. Right?
Yeah, that they took probation on, and that 1 year turned into 10.
It's crazy.
Just ridiculous.
And
Within
so
30 years.
30 years.
Right.
Your children, it's like, okay, you had
30
children
years.
before you went in. Now your child is impacted by it.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on because that
Continues.
same person is in that chair because somebody didn't vote.
Unbelievable. You have to vote. You have to vote, whether you like it or not, especially if you look like me and you brown like me or have melanin like me. You need to go out and vote, my brothers. Not saying, not taking away from my sisters at all, you know, because, you know, I believe in, I love, you know, where we are, especially with, you know, our culture and how we're supporting women right now, especially Black Girl Magic, especially like our melanin, our sisters in melanin. These gentlemen, however, man, we have a problem. It has to be fixed. I'm off my soapbox. Just had to say that. I'd like to thank you for coming to the show, sister. Thank you for coming to the show. What would you leave as a takeaway from this interview and your expectations?
So it's going to get better. We're gonna fight hard right now, and it's going to be a struggle, but it's going to get better. Because that's what happens in this country. We go through some dark times, and it gets better. And there's a lot of folks advocating for this right now, folks who have never done this before, who care. And so just know that you can, you know, reach out to Why Courts Matter. I'll be willing to come out to any organization, any room. If you put 20 people in a room, I have car, we'll travel. And you can reach us at Courts Matter PA on Twitter. and Why Courts Matter PA on Facebook. Very active on both. And just know that it's going to get better, because I don't know if it can get worse.
How about that, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I know that our current administration galvanized the folks. So that's a good thing that it did. You got people like, well, we should have did A, B, and C. Now they have an opportunity to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, do it. Or however you identify. Come and do it, because we need everybody to make sure that we can, be there and speak up for the people, man. We love the people. We talk weekly with the beautiful
LaurenSizzle
and the beautiful.
Classy Lady Sparkle.
And thanks for coming out to the show. I appreciate you coming out to the show, talking about the good things and the things that we need to do. And you continue to be a change agent, continue to be an activist, and continue to speak for the people who has no voice, because we appreciate you for doing that. Thank you so much.
What's up, you guys? It's your girl, Classy Lady Sparkle with We Talk We.